everyone, I'm Lily Michele, and today I'm going to be giving, 6 social distancing recommendations. Obviously, in this time of quarantine, we're all supposed to stay 6 feet apart or more, and I figured it'd be fun to choose some books that were kind of themed towards this, and they're all books that I think highly of. So let's get right in. I have 2 categories. One is ultra long series, and 2 is books that kind of make you want to stay away from people, or books that are themed towards that. The first book that I have is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I mean, there's nothing like a good murder novel to make you want to stay away from people. This book is about a group of people, 10 people to be exact. They all get an invitation to join, I don't remember the guy's name, to join their host on an island for pretty much a dinner party. Pretty much 10 little soldier boys went out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. So it's based on that old nursery rhyme where the people are slowly dying off and they're trying to figure out pretty much who done it. I highly recommend this, and it makes you want to stay away from people, let me tell you that. It's very atmospheric, and I think perfect for a nighttime read as well. Next, we have a book from a very long series, and that is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is from the Wheel of Time series, which is a 14-book series, and on my shelf, this series takes up its whole shelf. I can't fit anything else. So, since we're all social distancing right now, this might be the best time to read a 14-book series that's high fantasy. This book is about This book opens with a pretty intense prologue, and then we open on our token sheep herder, aka farm boy, and it feels very Tolkien-esque. Pretty much you just feel like you're kind of in Lord of the Rings until it's not Lord of the Rings at all. Rand and his friends meet this mysterious woman, and pretty much they go on this journey with this mysterious woman, and they discover things. The magic system in this world is really interesting. There's the male half and the female half, and the female half is fine, but the male half, any guy who touches the male half goes crazy. This series is pretty much it's really packed with adventure and romance and action and magic, and obviously I can't describe it very well. This book series is pretty much one of the pinnacles of fantasy in my opinion. You have Lord of the Rings, and then the next biggest fantasy series that's like still kind of prominent, I guess, is Wheel of Time, and then after that comes Game of Thrones, and you have Sanderson. This opened the door for a lot of fantasy. This kind of bridges the gap between classic fantasy and modern fantasy, and it's very well written. I enjoy this book a lot. I'm currently in book 9. I said I'd be farther, but I'm not. Next we have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This book is this is gothic. This is so much leave me alone, don't talk to me. It's about 500 pages, so it's not too bad. This book, if you don't know, I assume that you do, but if you don't know, Jane Eyre is about this young girl. She's an orphan, and she's living with her aunt and uncle, and they send her away to a boarding school, and then after she graduates from the boarding school, she goes on to become a governess. And as a governess, she meets Mr. Rochester, in which ensues this really chaotic relationship of them going back and forth. Mr. Rochester, her employer, and her, the governess, and her trying to navigate the waters. He's kind of a messed up dude, for more ways than one. This book is public domain. You could find it anywhere, but I'm still not going to spoil it, because what fun is that? Next, we're moving into some sci-fi. So for the first sci-fi book that I have to recommend is Illuminate by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This book is another one where you're just like, I don't want to be around people right now because of, this is one where you're just kind of like, it's a really harrowing story, and it's also kind of gory, so if you're not into blood and disease, maybe don't, which is kind of ironic. But something that's really fun is it's told, I'm sure you've seen, this book is told in files. And I don't know if I can find it. Okay, something kind of funny about this book that I noticed is, I don't know if you can see, but one of the files is named Laini Taylor. You know, the author of Strange the Dreamer and some other stuff. And there's a couple other nods to some of their fellow authors that's really funny, honestly, to me. So this book is pretty much about, there's a mining colony, and the mining colony is attacked. So basically they're trying to figure out what happened in the attack, and pretty much why everybody is going crazy. There's a whole bunch of secrets going around, and on top of all of that, these 3 ships that are the refugee ships are being chased by the ship that attacked the mining colony, and the ship that attacked the mining colony wants them dead because it's corporate espionage. So this book is pretty much about them trying to get the word out that corporate espionage has happened. It's about them trying to survive. So the year is 2575, and 2 rival mega corporations are at war over a planet that's a little more than an ice-covered speck. Now, with enemy fire raining down on them, exes Katie and Ezra, who are barely even talking to each other, are forced to escape on the evacuating fleet. But their problems are just beginning. The fleet's AI has gone crazy, and a deadly plague has broken out on one of the ships, and nobody in charge will say what's really going on. As Katie hacks into a tangled web of data to find the truth, it's clear that only one person can help her. Her ex-boyfriend she swore that she'd never speak to again. So drama. You got corporate espionage, you got relationship drama, you got biological warfare, or a deadly plague. Biological warfare. And a crazy AI. And it's a harrowing book, honestly. So if you're feeling, wanting to be, creeped out a little bit. The next book that I have is The Martian by Andy Weir. This book I chose because he's very isolated, all by himself, all alone on Mars. Pretty much, Mark Watney and his crew of astronauts are on Mars when a storm comes in and they're forced to evacuate. But as they're evacuating, Mark Watney gets hit by something, I don't remember exactly what it was, and he doesn't get on the ship, and they're forced to abandon him there. And they start their trip home. They're all pretty distressed. But here Mark Watney is, he's awake, he's alive, and they still have a lot of supplies because they left in a hurry. And he estimates that he has a few months to live on the food that he has, unless he can grow more food. Fortunately, Mark Watney is a biologist. This book is really interesting, and it's honestly, this is one of my all-time favorite books. This is about the human trait of survival. This is about Mark Watney. He just survives, and eventually all of Earth starts rooting for him to survive, and it's really funny. Mark Watney has a great sense of humor where he's really dry. I really want to read this book again. He's really dry, but he's also, he's straightforward. He's human. He also listens to a lot of 80s music because that's all one of his co-astronauts left behind. If you're feeling alone, join Mark Watney on his aloneness. The last book that I have is kind of an honorable mention. The last book that I have is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Elizabeth Gaskell and Charlotte Bronte were actually really close friends. This book is set during the Industrial Revolution, and our main character, Margaret, her father is disgraced from the church for his views, and she has to leave her childhood home, and she's forced to go live north with her family. This book is about her. She pretty much is trying to survive in a world that's not her own. She lived in the country, she lived in the rural parts of England, and she goes and lives in a city where it's dirty and there's people everywhere and there's homeless, and she doesn't understand the way it works. And you see her kind of flounder her way through this social situation as she's trying to figure out, how does this work? She's trying to figure out how to survive in a world that she's never known before. This book was honestly, it's so sweet. It has to do with a lot of, like, there's a lot of strikes going on, and Margaret thinks that the Margaret thinks that the company owners should pay the people more money, and the company owners are like, you're crazy, and then she's like, no, I'm not, you guys are jerks, and then Thornton's like, no, we're not. And it has to do a lot with the social situations of the day, and it's also because it's a classic, and it's, Victorian literature, there's also a romance, which not all Victorian literature has, but there's a very sweet romance, and it's just a really good book. And because of it's kind of a darker atmosphere, it just feels kind of lonely to me. It feels like a lonely book. So this is my last recommendation for social distancing recommendations. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any books that make you think of social distancing or that you've really enjoyed over this time of quarantine. And like and subscribe if you so feel like it. And I will see you guys later, hopefully, with another video. Hopefully. Thank you for watching.